You know, when you think about Spider-Man's villains, there's one who's just different. He's not really evil, he's tragic. A monster that was actually born from a really noble cause. So today, we're not just talking about the lizard. We're going to get into the absolutely heartbreaking story of Dr. Curt Connors, the brilliant man who's trapped inside that beast.
Yeah, he's been around forever, debuting all the way back in 1963 and terrifying Spider-Man from the get-go. But look, if you've only seen the movies, you've really only scratched the surface. The comics tell a much darker, way more complex story about a man's desperate quest to heal himself, a quest that just spirals into this total nightmare of horror and loss.
And that quote, those are the actual words of Dr. Curt Connors. Right at the moment his dream curdles into a nightmare. You have to understand, it's not just a physical change. It's the birth of a whole new monstrous personality, a demon that is going to haunt him for the rest of his life. And that's really the heart of it, isn't it? He isn't a villain in the way we usually think of them. He's the tragic result of a good man's ambition gone horribly, horribly wrong. This isn't a story of good versus evil. It's a story of a man at war with himself. So, to really get the monster, you have to meet the man first. Before there was ever a lizard, there was Dr. Curt Connors. And by just about any measure, this guy was a hero. I mean, just look at this resume. This is the man behind the monster. A gifted surgeon, a decorated army veteran who was out there saving lives on the battlefield, a brilliant researcher, and on top of all that, a loving husband and father. This is the man whose life is about to be completely shattered. But you know, his heroism, it came with a heavy price. A blast during the war took his arm, which basically ended his career as a surgeon. But Connors, he refused to be broken. He poured all of his genius into this incredible quest, unlocking the secrets of how reptiles can regrow their limbs, all to help amputees just like him. His goal wasn't power, it was to heal. Yeah, but as you can probably guess, this noble quest, it led him down a really dark and twisted path. The cure he was so desperate to find would become a curse, one that would change him and everyone around him forever. On paper, the process seems so logical, so scientific, right? But the outcome? It's just pure horror. After a successful trial on a rabbit, Connors makes the fateful, desperate choice to become his own test subject. And it works. His arm regenerates, but at a terrible, terrible cost. The serum doesn't just regrow his arm, it rewrites his entire body, transforming him into the monstrous lizard. And the lizard is everything Curt Connors is not. It's this primal force of nature, just driven by savage instinct and this deep, burning hatred for all of humanity. The lizard doesn't want to heal the world, he wants to conquer it. He wants to create a whole new world ruled by reptiles, with himself as the king. So this transformation, it kicks off this brutal internal war. It's a battle for control of one body, fought between a brilliant, compassionate man and a savage, reptilian monster. And caught right in the crossfire, the family that loves them both. And this right here, this is the tug of war that defines his entire life. On one side, you've got Dr. Connors, a genius who's been a huge ally to Spider-Man. He even saved Aunt May's life once. But on the other side, you have the lizard, a creature of pure rage that literally wants to destroy humanity. It is the ultimate Jekyll and Hyde story, and the fate of the world is often hanging in the balance. And look, the lizard's powers, they're no joke. We're talking superhuman strength, a healing factor that's off the charts, and he can even control other reptiles. But for Curt Connors, these aren't cool superpowers. They are the terrifying signs of his curse, the very chains that bind him to the monster inside. The physical transformations were obviously horrific, but the emotional toll, that was so much worse. I mean, can you imagine? His wife and his young son lived in constant fear, never knowing when the man they loved would just disappear, and this monster would take his place. This wasn't some secret identity. It was a waking nightmare for his entire family. But you can't keep this up forever, right? That constant cycle of transformation and cure, it eventually took its toll. The tragedy just kept escalating until it hit a breaking point that seemed impossible to come back from. A moment when the monster didn't just emerge, it won. This timeline just lays out the horrifying progression. It starts with this cycle of hope and despair. The cure, then the relapse, over and over. Then he loses his family because they just can't take it anymore. They're driven away by fear. And finally, the ultimate unthinkable act of horror. The lizard persona, in a moment of pure animalistic rage, kills and consumes his own son, Billy. That was the point of no return. The trauma of that act just shattered whatever was left of Curt Connor's psyche. And from that wreckage, a new lizard emerged. A smarter one that had all of Connor's intelligence, but the monster's soul. The internal war was finally over. The monster had won. So, after all of that, all that darkness and tragedy, what's the legacy here? Why are we still so fascinated by this character, even after all these decades? Well, he's so much more than just a villain. He's maybe the ultimate tragic antihero. His entire story is this relentless cycle of relapse and redemption, this constant brutal fight for control. And maybe most importantly, he's this powerful cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked ambition, a terrifying reminder that even the most noble intentions can have absolutely devastating consequences. And all of this history, this really deep, dark, complex stuff from the comics, that's the foundation for the lizard you've seen on the big screen. Understanding where he comes from, what he's been through, it just adds a whole new layer of depth and tragedy to those movie versions. Which really just leaves us with one final haunting question. After everything he's done, and everything that's been done by him, is there any hope left for Curt Connors? Is redemption even possible when the monster you're fighting isn't just some enemy, but it's actually a part of you?